Okay, the last part of this section in inverse is I wanted to do some additional practice with you to make sure that you understand the concept of an inverse. I can't stress this enough. The whole idea of an inverse is that you switch your x's and your y's. If your function that you're trying to find the inverse of is not 1-to-1, you have to restrict the domain so that when you find the inverse, your inverse will also be a function. So, some additional practice here to kind of emphasize and solidify what we've learned. In part A, it says use the graph of f to show the value of f inverse of 1, f inverse of 7, and f inverse of -8. So let's go back and actually plot some of these points. So this is my original function. Okay, so let's plot some points. I have the point 1, 1. I also have the point 3, 7. I have the point, let's see what else. I have -1, -5. I have the point -2, -8. Here's just some points to look at so that we can switch them to graph the inverse. So if I plot the point 1, 1 on the function f, when I switch it, I should also have the point 1, 1 on the inverse. 3, 7 on the original function means I should have the point 7, 3 on the inverse. -1, -5 means on the inverse I should have the point -5, -1, and then I should also have the point -8, -2 when I switch those as well. When I go ahead and plot those, let's see, I have 7, 3, and I have -5, -1, and then -8, -2. So here's the graph of the inverse. Now, I need to find f of -1. So if I look at that inverse, if I look at, if I look at the inverse and I want to plug in 1, I would get out 1. And actually it shows it right here on our table. That was one of the points we picked. Okay, f inverse of 7, that was also one of the points we picked, should be 3. And then f inverse of -8 should be -2. Okay, next example, it says assume that the function f is 1-to-1. If f of -10 is equal to 7, then f inverse of -7 should be -10. Because if I have the function f and I have the point on there -10, -7, then when I switch those coordinates for the inverse, I should have -7, 10. So if I plug in -7, I should get out -10. Okay, next example. Assuming that the function f is 1-to-1, if f of -3 is equal to -4, then f of -4 should be -3. If my inverse has the point on there -3, -4, then when I go to make a chart for my f, my original function, I should have the point on there -4, -3. Okay, so same idea here. We have, this is our original function f. If I draw my points in blue for my f inverse, then I would have the point -8, -3, -10, -2, 5, -1, -4, 0, 1, 4, -9, 2. I'm running out of space, so I'll carry it down here. And then we would have negative 3, 3, and then 8, 4. So I just switched all my points. So now it's asking to find f of 0. F of 0, that's my original function. That's my red function. So if I look at the chart for f and I look at 0, I would get out negative 4. This one here is my inverse function. So when I look at my chart, I want to make sure I look at this chart here, my f inverse chart. So when I find f inverse of 8, I'm going to get 4. Excuse me. This one here is our original function in red, but it's asking what would I plug in for x to get out y for 4. So if I look at my y values for my f function, here's where y is 4, so x would be 1. And then f inverse of x is equal to negative 2. That means I'm going to look at my inverse function, the blue table, and look to see where is my y value negative 2. That would be right here. So my x it gives me that would be negative 10. So f inverse of negative 10 would be negative 2.